the Pope, the Hierophant, and sometimes depicted as Jupiter or even Bacchus. This is a spiritual father archetype and has an esoteric meaning of disruption. Hello, I'm Michael J. Auger, creator of the Allcento Tarot, and today let's take a closer look at the fifth card of the Tarot's major arcana. The Visconti-Sforza interpretation of this card shows a man with a white beard, wearing a triple crown, who gives the sign of a blessing with his right hand. While the fourth triumph card provided stability, like a four-legged chair, the fifth triumph knocks it over. This arcana represents a teacher that disrupts perception by presenting new knowledge. In the ancient world, a symbol of the teacher was a chair. The Latin words for chair are cathedra and seat, which is why the position of a university professor is referred to as a chair, and the position of a bishop is referred to as a see, from seat. The Pope is said to occupy the chair of St. Peter, as he is viewed by Catholics to be the spokesman for the entire church. So what does this paramount teacher tell us that causes so much disruption? The Pope's blessing, with two fingers pointing up and two fingers pointing down, has been interpreted by esotericists as distinguishing the manifest from the concealed part of the doctrine. What this means is that there is more than just the world of the four elements that we know from our four senses. There's something more that will disrupt our exclusively materialistic way of thinking of things. There's also the fifth element. This card represents a necessary disruption to acknowledge the spiritual. Early woodblock Marseille-style versions of this card show the Pope sitting on a chair facing two students. This is the first arcana that has more than one figure. This card represents more than just the teacher. It's an expression of the dynamic between teacher and students. This card represents the active and dynamic process of transferring wisdom. Again, the hand blessing with two fingers pointing up and two fingers down reveals that what is seen is not all there is. The arcane and mysterious spiritual is translated so that it can be understood. While the Popess has a veil and reveals wisdom to only those she deems worthy, the Pope has no veil, and he openly teaches to all who wish to listen. The knowledge this archetype teaches reveals a new dimension to thought, which is an active disruption of stability. And yet he presents and passes down this knowledge in a traditional way, so that this essential disruption isn't jarring, but comforting. Although what he teaches is radical, the way he teaches is the opposite of radical. He wears a traditional three-tiered hat and holds a traditional three-tiered staff. He sits on a raised platform, higher than his students, and there is a familiar sense of social order and structural hierarchy implied. There's no misunderstanding of who's in charge. His students gesture with their own hands, one up and one down, which imply they have understood his lesson. The majority of esotericists are nonconformists, who value open-minded thinking and rebel against any type of control. So for this reason, this conservative arcana is often considered the least popular card in the deck. As I mentioned in a previous video, there were certain locations where Catholicism was less popular, and so card makers created variations of the tarot, replacing the Pope and Popess cards for the gods of Juno and Jupiter. In Sanskrit, Jupiter is called Guru or Brihaspati. Jupiter is considered the spiritual teacher and mentor of the devas. So this lord of higher knowledge makes for a suitable substitution. Another fun variation is the swapping of the Pope card with Bacchus, the god of wine. Bacchus, the Roman version of the Greek god Dionysus, was often portrayed as a figure of education and instruction, particularly regarding the cultivation of wine, which is considered a spiritual drink. Although more of a party animal, he is also a fitting alternative interpretation of this arcana. Moving forward in time, Oswald Wirth's version of this card reverts back to the symbolism from the earlier Marseille-style cards. Wirth subscribes to a similar interpretation of the symbolism as the occultist Eliphas Levi. The triple cross is seen as a lingam piercing the three levels of reality. The two disciples represent two different ways to receive spiritual knowledge, theology and piety. The back of the chair is separated into two parts, which take on the significance as the pillars of Hermes and Solomon. In this version, they are green, a color that represents the practice of a living tradition. The title of Oswald Wirth's card is the traditional Le Pape, or the Pope. However, in the writings of Eliphas Levi, this card is referred to as the Hierophant, a Greek word translating to the one who reveals and interprets the sacred mysteries. The most popular tarot deck, known as the Rider-Waite-Smith, uses this title of Hierophant. He wears a triple-tiered hat and holds a triple-tiered staff with one hand while giving the papal blessing with the other hand. The two columns that historically were built into his chair are depicted here to each stand independent and strong, like a bull. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn links this card to the astrological sign of Taurus the Bull, which has a fixed earth energy. It's important to note these columns are not the same pillars as seen on the card of the High Priestess. Instead of the polarity of black and white, the pillars here are gray, symbolic of blended wisdom. On the platform of the Hierophant, there are black and white checkers that further symbolize a blending of opposites. There are also crossed keys that symbolically unlock the gates of heaven and hell. The devotees in the lower part of this card are dressed differently. One wears a garment decorated with red roses, and the other with white lilies. However, they both seem to be wearing a golden yoke, as if they were chariot pullers. This can be seen as symbolizing their dedication to tradition. With any type of traditional authority figure, there is a temptation for corruption. However, this is usually a reverse aspect of this card. The upright interpretation celebrates the traditions that make life rich, and the vital bonds and sense of belonging to be found in community. This is a very positive thing. The Hierophant, depicted in the Thoth Tarot, created by Aleister Crowley and Lady Frida Harris, follows the tradition of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, so a prominent bull can be seen as a link to Taurus, as well as an elephant, another beast of burden. The Golden Dawn also corresponds this arcana with the Hebrew letter Vav, which means a nail that joins. So there are 9 nails featured at the top of this card. The Hierophant is the one who disrupts our understanding of the material aspects with new knowledge that rejoins together with spiritual ideas. In the 4 corners of this card are the 4 cherubim, the eagle, the man or angel, the bull, and the lion. The Hierophant wears a crown of Osiris. However, the staff he holds is topped with the 3 rings which symbolize the 3 eons, Isis, Osiris, and the new eon of Horus on top. It's the new eon of Horus that Crowley saw humankind transitioning into. The child of Horus can be seen within a pentagram on the Hierophant's chest. Beneath this 5-pointed star is Isis, depicted here, armed with a sword. A ray of light originates where the sword crosses her womb and shines upwards to her son, Horus. There are different geometrical shapes that can be overlaid on this design. You can imagine a hexagram, and inside this is an inverted pentagram, and inside this is an upright pentagram. All this represents the union of the macrocosm with the microcosm. The consciousness of mankind is increased in the new eon of Horus. The hexagram, or macrocosm, and the pentagram, or microcosm, are together in this card, which symbolize the idea that the Hierophant is the one who channels spirit down into the world, similar to the Magus Magician, but instead of the active will of magic, this is a transfer of wisdom through tradition and teaching. However, in this case, we're no longer restrained by the boundaries of Orthodox religion. The child of horse dances freely with only one sandal attached to his right foot, implying that this spiritual teacher allows personal freedom. And here's the Hierophant of the Allcento tarot. In this depiction, instead of a pope, there's a more universal spiritual teacher. Instead of a triple crown, his headdress is composed of 3 leaves and antlers, connecting him to nature, and a third eye, allowing vision of the spiritual. He holds an open book of knowledge in his lap. Visible on its pages are the symbol of Jupiter, the symbol for fire, an Ouroboros snake, and a DNA spiral. He teaches these concepts and more to his devotees, both male and female, who sit below him. With his right hand, he gives the esoteric sign that distinguishes between the above and the below, and his left hand holds a 3-tiered staff. On the lowest rung of this staff is a lily and a rose, symbolic of death and life. On the middle rung is a feather and a bone, symbolic of accomplishment and persistence. And on the top rung is a moon and a sun, symbolic of the feminine and the masculine. At the top of his staff are a trinity of rings representing the body, mind, and spirit. He sits between 2 gray pillars. And to one side, a spider can be seen starting to weave a web, symbolic of the stories and parables that a teacher weaves. To his other side, there is a raven, a bird capable of speech, which represents insight and death of misconceptions. There are 2 lit candles, one white and one red on either side of him, and crossed silver and gold keys below him. These represent enlightenment through the joining together of dualities. The main symbol for this card is the 5-pointed star that represents the addition of the spiritual to the material. The Hierophant builds on earthly establishment and teaches us about the divine. However, unlike the High Priestess, who is veiled in mystery and shadows, the Hierophant represents the well-worn and sunny path. And that's all I have to teach today. But our spiritual journey will continue soon, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and you'll be kept in the loop. And if you enjoyed watching this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment. And as always, you can find out more about me and the Allcento Tarot at my website, offbeatartwork.com. And until next time, Brace blessings on your spiritual journey.